It's a funny old time for learning and development at the moment. I think that there are strange contradictions going on. Predominantly, I think that the contradiction of our clients having access to the world's information, to experts on demand, coupled with the traditional expectation of having courses when they need development. I don't know, is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I see it all the time, of course. You know, managers coming down and asking L&D for courses, and that's been the case for as many years I've been in L&D, right? Even now, you know, it still happens. And it feel like L&D are a little bit stuck, unsure of maybe their role, the purpose they have.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of anxiety there. Yeah. I know more so perhaps than with online.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think that there's an awareness that it's important that digital is part of the offering, but what that digital element looks like. Is it an afterthought? Is it front and centre? How do you make it part of what L&D do? I think that's there's definitely a real confusion on that, and I know there is, because when you go to conferences and you see the abundance of LMS providers and e-learning content providers, all of those guys, you sort of think, okay, so what's the role that those technologies play? Well, I reference a blog that you wrote maybe a few months back on this, about the core provision that L&D build out on things like induction, managers training, compliance, those type of areas. And you feel like they are the things that are regurgitated, rehashed, overhauled over and over and over again. And what I'm seeing and what I've seen through the years is that we stay stuck in that place of just in that circle of doing those things and trying to make those bits more engaging. Yeah. And that only separates us from the business more and more, and it creates a bit of a divide when the stuff that's actually going on, the real problems, that's outside of that circle. Yeah,
that's right. And that's the blogs about L&D being stuck, because it solves the perceived problems of, oh no, we don't have that program, or we don't have enough online content. And of course, no one in the business is saying, hey, can I have a conflict resolution course? And if they are, it's one or two people. But what we're not addressing is the reason why that needs addressing in the first place. I'd say another way that this is manifesting at the moment is, as we experienced on the CIPD panel, when how many people asked the same question, which was, I've got an LMS full of content, but no one goes there. So how can I get them there?
Yeah. So it's not the point. You could have as many platforms. You could put all the content in the world. You could answer every skill set, knowledge, whatever, with content that's off the shelf, and you still won't be solving the problems of your business.
That's right, and I think that it goes back to one of the great anxieties of learning and development, that we don't want to be order takers, but we align ourselves to the business by taking their orders. And I think that there's got to be this separation. We've got to understand our role as not learning experts, but perhaps people who can help you solve the problems. Performance and capability. I hate those terms sometimes. No. It's about what people are there to do, what's getting in the way, and what the organisation needs in terms of knowledge and skills in order to do the work and deliver its strategy. I mean, even then you blow that up to something that might seem intangible, but we talk in the language of the business, and it's an enabling role rather than perhaps an educational one.
And maybe a question you could throw out is, what's stopping people doing what they want to do? What's the barriers? What's the friction? I guess what's stopping you from being able to get to where you need to get to? And that's the stuff that you zoom in on. And I think, to your point, I think we have an obsession with learning. I think that's we're quite fixated on the term. It's in everyone's role titles. We call ourselves learning and development, and that's caused us to focus a lot on learning. And I think, to our point at the start, which is that we are no longer experts, because we acknowledge we're no longer experts, and expertise can be in your pocket, and you can be an expert on anything once you look at on your phone on the way to work or whatever. I think our attention in L&D has shifted towards, let's be experts in learning. And I hear it all the time, like, people don't have time to learn, or people don't like learning. So we spend a lot of time in spaces of trying to accelerate learning. The one I got a lot of, when I became focused on digital and social media, was, how do you transfer the learning? That was the big one for me. I was like, oh God, how do I transfer that? And the more and more I focus on getting stuff done and helping people do the jobs they want to do. It's not about the learning. It's not about that at all.
So what are you doing that's working now, Adam?
I would say the new starter experience, onboarding, induction, whatever you want to call it. We've all been there before as a first timer going into a new organisation. And when you consider the old way, the way of starting an organisation, probably receiving loads of information before you start, then you eventually walk through the door on day one, you go to an event, it might be over 1 day, a half day, 5 days, whatever it might be, but you're piled full of information.
And everybody wants their hand in as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Legal want to do some slides, facilities want some slides, HR wants some slides.
New one, cybersecurity, they want some slides as well. And then after that, you might get some e-learning thrown at you, kind of do that for compliance. And then of course, you're left to go and fend for yourself in your own department. That's the old way of doing it. Now, if you put your people first, you ask them and understand the friction that they're going through and the challenges they're experiencing, but also understand what they're going through at different points on that journey as well. If you really unpack that, then you don't focus on content. It becomes about them.
It's not about the topics, is it? It's about their journey.
Absolutely.
You know, when you consider that before somebody joins an organisation, there's anxiety. I think one of the important things is don't overlook the emotion that comes with it, but understand what might be causing the anxiety and help to address that before. When people come into an organisation, sometimes we think about what we should be doing rather than what we could be doing. And the should is, right, we've only got half a day or we've only got a day. But if we had it for a week, we could spread all of this content out. But it's not about that. What should we be looking at and think, you know, again, as you mentioned before, understand what the friction is that people are experiencing and asking them, so how do we help you overcome this? And what we find a lot of the time is that people don't need a hell of a lot of content because they're getting information, they're doing their own research, or they've got a buddy, or they're being supported by their manager, but there are certain things that they're just not able to do or do efficiently that we can help them with.
Yeah, and it's the type of things we're talking about. Or how do you do things around here?
Exactly.
How do you do things in this company? Because we know content's cheap. It's, you know, I could go on Google right now and go 90 days in a new organisation. I can go, how do I start well? What should it look like? All of those sort of things. You can Google that stuff. But what it doesn't answer is how to do things in the place you're about to go and start working. And that's the stuff that you need to unpack. And that is the friction. That's where the anxiety comes from. It's those questions like, what do I wear on my first day at organisation X? What's the first day going to look like at this company? All of those type of things are the things that your new starters are thinking about. But I don't just think it's about like setting out loads of resources, piling them up and then going, right, there you go, because that's not healthy either. I think the idea is also to look at when that friction exists as well, and drop it and tell them you will find this useful at this point. And it never stops, you know. Don't just assume, oh, cool, because all of these are experiments, right? Don't just stop and go, cool, that's it, shut up shop, we've done our resources and we've automated them, they're all happening, they're all being sent to the people at the right time. It's understanding, okay, are these still useful? And if they're not, just keep on iterating on them. And making them better, making them better, and making them better, and don't ever finish what you've started.
Exactly. So. I mean, you've been doing some great stuff on new managers as well. It follows a very similar principle.
Of course it does.
Finding out what friction your new managers are experiencing as they consider the beginning of their role, supporting and guiding them throughout that, and again addressing the friction.
Do you think then can you do this across the board? Can you do this not just transitions? Can you do this in other areas as well, do you think?
Yeah, I think as long as there's friction, if you're working, it's really easy when you consider transitions. Most organisations are getting this wrong. You've already described the overload of induction. Then we can perhaps label it the neglect of new managers, but it's okay because they'll go on a course in 6 months, a year's time when it comes up. So those are really easy to do. But I consider this sometimes. It's like you've got a hole in your bucket. You know, once you've got a hole in your induction bucket, you've got water pouring out of it. If you address this, then it's going to help with a lot of other problems that perhaps are cultural and performance. Problems. And you've also got that with new managers. If you are shaping the way that people think about the new role, guiding and supporting them as they face new and tricky situations, again, you're helping to address problems that are likely to come up down the line. But of course, there's all sorts you could do here, all sorts of soft skills. We've talked before about presentation skills.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, right? Because that's a classic one that people will get.
Yeah.
You know, that's the moment that if people are watching this video, someone will come down to them tomorrow and go, can you put my person on a presentation skills course? And it's the bravery and the confidence and the change of conversation you need to have to alter it slightly to go in, do a different direction and probe more, because it's about the performance and capability and asking questions around that rather than just go, yeah, sure, and do the performance.
Take the order.
Yeah, take the order and then deliver it and then go, nothing changed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with that one, I think your example you shared me before about the presentation skills one is absolutely on point, but I think it's about breaking it down, isn't it?
Well, first of all, it's about understanding the problem. So, so if I come to you and say somebody in my team,
we're going to do it right now.
Yeah, somebody in my team needs presentation skills. You know, like the traditional way is like brilliant. We're aligned to the business. If I take that order,
it's aggregated needs as well.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, you're aggregating common needs when you're considering.
Someone else needs that as well over there, right? And that person, great. We've got 10 people. There's a course.
And I've got a day. We've got a day to got a day to fill. But if we're looking at the real problem, we'll go to the individual and say, what is it you're trying to do, and why can't you do that right now? We understand the friction, which might be around, well, I've just been asked to do a presentation.
And it was in work that probably happened.
Exactly.
Right?
I've never been asked to do a presentation before. I don't know where to start. There's number one. We might be a little further down the line. What type of presentation works here? Maybe a further down the line, what kind of template? How do I overcome nerves? All of this stuff. If it's real friction, then and people aren't able to find this out by themselves with a Google search or for any other reason, then we can create digital resources and short experiences that help them to overcome this at the point of work in real time, which is all about helping them to do what they're trying to do. We know we learn when we are in work, we're trying to do the stuff that we're unable to do. It's a lot rarer.
And the alternative is to take them out and go, cool, leave work for a second, come over here in this kind of like castle that we've created, and we're going to train you, and you're going to leave work, and it's not in the context of what they're doing,
That's it, and we're still going to help ask them and expect them to transfer this learning back to the workplace. Again, it's inherently broken. It's going to sound like heresy to a lot of learning and development people, but by guiding and supporting and scaffolding the working experience rather than the learning experience, that's how we really step up to the plate. That's how we really affect the work, and that's how we support real learning, but it's via the work itself.
Of course. So how would other people get started with this approach?
Well, I think there are three things. The first one is solve real problems.
Not perceived problems.
No, not perceived problems.
We don't have this course, that's a perceived problem.
Exactly, right? But you've got a real problem, such as people are leaving the organisation before 3 months. There's a real problem. The second one is run experiments.
Okay.
As opposed to programs.
Like the big bangs, like launches, which is often the case in a lot of L&D places, right?
Exactly, big bets made on big programs. And then the final one is scale what works. Once you've got something working that's solving the problem, then scale that organically to see who else could benefit from that. As opposed to big bangs.
Big bangs don't work.
Big bangs don't work.